We will move on to our next presentation, which is about simplifying the reuse of concepts across organizations. Fabian Santi is an interoperability specialist at the Swiss Federal Statistical Office and will tell us a lot more about that. Fabian, are you connected? Can we see and hear you?
I hope so.
Wait, can you hear you? I can't see you yet. There we go. Wonderful. And we're starting to see you're sharing your content.
Great.
So great. Fantastic. I will hand over the floor to you then. Tell us about simplifying the reuse of concepts.
Thank you. Yes, so my name is Fabian Santi. I work at the Swiss Federal Statistical Office, and thanks a lot for the opportunity to present how we simplify the reuse of concept across the organizations in Switzerland. So to give a little bit of context, in Switzerland, we have since a few years the National Data Strategy, Nationale Datenbewirtschaftung, that is active. And within this strategy, which was signed off by the government, it is stated that the Federal Statistical Office should build and maintain, deploy an interoperability platform. So I'm part of the team that is building that, and this platform should contain the metadata which describe the Swiss data landscape. And it should not only be used by the federal government, rather it is really aimed for a broad public use and for the different regional offices, even private companies that could use it, or even private individuals. And the statistical office has two roles with this platform. So one of those is as contributor of different data sets, different standards, concepts, and nomenclatures that should be stored on this platform, but also as a builder and developer of the platform. So it's in this second context that this interoperability service where I work is that we present it, so in this administrative context. So I would like to present this with three different dimensions. I want to talk about the technical aspects of the platform that we're building. You can access it on the link that is below, I40Y admin. I want to talk about the roles and organizations and the governance surrounding the platform. And finally, I will talk about some of the standardization and harmonization processes which this platform allows us to use. So regarding the technical aspects, I think like quite a lot of different solutions and platforms that I've seen these last few days, we use a DCAT compatible metadata catalog to describe data sets. It is different from our open government data portal in the sense that we also describe data sets. For example, the business registry, which is obviously not open data. It contains information about businesses which should not be disclosed. But it is important that people and different actors of government know that this data set exists and which variable are there. So we profit from the DCAT standard in the sense that the metadata is structured and is machine friendly, but we do not only publish open government data. And next to these data sets, we allow to describe nomenclatures and concepts. So these are collections of technical terms which are useful or legally binding for certain areas. So for example, on the right, you can see the Swiss Standard Classification of Occupations, which is a list of about 20,000 professions, which is maintained by the Statistical Office, but is also used, for example, by the Ministry of Economy. And as such, different organizations that are using the platform are describing different nomenclature. So we have the ESIC, the NOGA as we call it in Switzerland, or for example, the commodity identification for trade, or for example, the energy carriers by the Ministry of Energy. And each of these standards can either be, or code lists, can either be just for description or binding standards within their domain. And finally, we go a bit further than just the standard, I'd say, DCAT IP attributes. We also can describe the structure of a data set. So what you see on the screen is, for example, the enterprise master data coming from the business registry. And here we actually have the different variables that are within this data set. And those are described, for example, the ESIC code of a business is described according to a code list. And when clicking on this, we can see that this dataset is referring the existing concept, the EASIC NOGA nomenclature. And this way, we have the link between the datasets and the organizations which publish the dataset and the different standards that they're using. This will be important when I come to the process at the end. Regarding the roles and organization and the governance, we have a role which is particularly important, which we ask each of the partners, each of the institutions that we onboard on the platform should define a data steward who would be responsible for the data harmonization within its institution. And this person contributes personally with the validation, with the nomenclature that he wants to describe. And they work on two levels. So basically, there is a local data steward, which works on the institutional level for each institution which joins the platform. And he works with the data owner, with the local data custodian, the local IT, which is basically storing the data, to make sure that the data is explicitly stored corresponding to the standards and the metadata which describe the data. And then within the interoperability service, we have the Swiss data steward, which is basically signing off on some of the standards and making sure that the communication is running between the local data stewards and the federal government, and make sure that the right standards are promoted, and so on. And basically the quality of the metadata is on par. So with this together, it allows for two ways to make the standardization process. I would say we have two processes. The first one is kind of the normal one. We base ourselves on the process of ISO or the Swiss standardization body. There is we form a working group, we develop a standard, we collect feedback from stakeholders. We get a decision by the data owners regarding the standard, and finally we publish it as Swiss data stewards on the interoperability platform to make sure that it is available, publicly accessible for everyone. But the other way to do it, and we hope to promote this soon, is for each agency and each institution which describes the data set. For example, one could describe the location in one particular format, and we have two other organizations which describe the location in two other formats. And then this would be visible on the platform, and we can see this institution would see that, okay, actually we're not corresponding to the standard which these other institutions are using, but we would like to simplify the data sharing with these two institutions. And hopefully this will kind of provide a soft push, a motivation for kind of outliers, people or organization companies that are not yet adhering to a standard, to see, oh, well, actually maybe 10 other organizations are using this standard. I should adhere to it as well, and the data steward within that organization should promote this work, make sure and try to make sure that this organization respects a harmonized and a new standard which is global for every user. So there's no time for a demo. You can access the public part of the website. There is an internal part for each institution, but you can also see it on the public page here, a few of the standards which are already described. Thanks a lot for your attention, and happy to answer questions if there are any.
Well, thank you very much indeed. And I will remind our audience again, do send your questions, scan the QR code on the top of the screen, or go to slido.com and enter endorse 2023 and choose track 1 so we make sure we get the right questions. We do have a few indeed that have come in for you. First one, Fabian, is the data already linked with other external reference data, or is that planned in the future?
No, not yet, I'd say. So it's only within the platform, so it's on a Swiss level. However, as Swiss data stewards, we try to reference, we include in the platform some standards, for example, those of the European Union, and we describe them and enter them in the platform ourselves. So we make sure that we stay aligned with some of these standards.
Oh, well, you mentioned it, and that leads to our next question. One of our audience members is saying Switzerland is indeed very active in the field. Do you collaborate with EU institutions?
So we keep updated. We have a few in the SEMIC community on Interoperable Europe. We're active and participate to different meetings. We have made a few suggestions sometimes, but yes, I'd say yes. Maybe not as actively as we could yet, but we would like to.
Can datasets be downloaded, and if yes, in what formats?
So no, so the metadata, yes, and currently we have Excel, CSV, and JSON. We're discussing the possibility of having RDF, but that's only the metadata. We don't host the data ourselves, except for some nomenclature code lists, but the dataset themselves are either hosted on the different by the institution that are hosting them, or they are not accessible, for example, as the business registry.
And what metadata models are you applying for representing the metadata?
So we're based on two main standards. One is SDMX, this Statistical Data and Metadata Exchange format, and we're also based quite a lot on ISO 11179 for metadata registries. I'd say those are the two main inspirations.
So another question is the system custom developed, or are you using any standard platform?
It's completely custom developed.
Completely custom developed. I thought you were
Yes.
going to say that.
Yes.
Can the
We have plans to make it open source though, but not, well, hopefully
in the
this
future?
year. We'll see. Yes.
Can the metadata be harvested automatically?
So I think we have endpoints for the DCAT part, and we're making sure we're in building the public endpoints for the other nomenclatures that.
Okay, I think that we might have exhausted our questions here. Thank you very much indeed for your presentation, and I will remind our audience that they do need to scan that QR code or use that hashtag endorse 2023 to put your questions to our speakers.